Daniel Sports Central, we go over an NFL game preview and prediction on the Super Bowl LVIII matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Two teams that have had incredible runs getting to this point. And it all comes down to this. San Francisco, top seed in the NFC for a reason. This is a team that you could definitely argue was the most complete team in the NFL this season. And they're taking on Kansas City, the defending Super Bowl champs. The Chiefs at this point, you could easily say, are the true dynasty in the NFL. This is their fourth Super Bowl appearance in 5 seasons, looking for their third in recent time and second straight overall. We'll be over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with their team trends. San Francisco beat Detroit 34-31. That was a game that at halftime, honestly, it really seemed like Detroit was heading to their first Super Bowl, but 49ers shut the door on that real quick. They won it 34-31, and the second half was lights out for San Francisco. That's kind of something that we saw against the Packers as well in the divisional round. It looked like the Packers were going to win it, but San Fran found a way, and that's why this team is so tough to beat. They know how to win games, and they've lost a few games this season, obviously, but they've, for the most part, been a very dominant team and probably the most complete team in the NFL this season, you could definitely say. But for the Chiefs, they beat Baltimore 17-10, a brutal defense there in Baltimore, so I mean, scoring 17 isn't super impressive, but against that defense on the road, it honestly was a pretty impressive thing. And really, I think the most impressive thing was Kansas City's defense, holding Baltimore to 10 points there, winning it 17-10. Huge win for the Chiefs, and they are on to their second straight Super Bowl, fourth appearance in 5 seasons. I mean, you got the Patriots, who had that incredible run with Tom Brady for so many years. It seems like we're on to something similar with Kansas City and Pat Mahomes at this current point. This is, once again, their fourth appearance in the past 5 seasons. Games be on Sunday, the 11th in Las Vegas. Kickoff is 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going 49ers by 2 here. We're still a decent amount of time away from this game, so that definitely could shift. But as of right now, San Francisco is the favorite, over under 47.5, which is honestly a little bit higher than I expected, considering Kansas City's defense has been really incredible this season. I mean, it's really been the offense for Kansas City that's held this team back at points. But obviously, Pat Mahomes being able to find a way, and the experience that he has gained in the past few years of having so much success, and you can't forget about Kelsey and even Pacheco has been incredible this season. I mean, this offense has found a way in the playoffs. It wasn't always pretty during the regular season, that is for sure, but one of the main constants of the Chiefs this season is their defense. They've been really consistent defensively, and in these playoffs, they have especially been impressive. But for the 49ers to have as strong of a defense as they do as well, you got 2 good offenses, but 2 elite defenses with these 2 teams. And so the over-under, honestly, is a little bit high for this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this turned out to be more of a moderate to a lower scoring game, given the fact of the strength of both of these defenses. But you look at the playoff runs, 49ers beat the Packers by 3 in the divisional round and beat Detroit by 3 in the NFC Championship game. So obviously 2 closer wins there for San Francisco, but still found a way in both of those games, and that's really what all matters in the end. But for the Chiefs, they beat Miami 26-7. That win should not go overlooked. Miami is a brutal offense, and that really goes to show how far this defense has come. This is a really strong defensive team. Usually when you think of the Chiefs, you probably think of Pat Mahomes in the offense, obviously, as you should. But the receiving core hasn't been as great for the Chiefs this season. It's really been the defense that has shined for Kansas City. They beat Buffalo on the road 27-24 in a brutal environment. Beat Baltimore in a brutal environment 17-10. Baltimore's got a very underrated home field advantage. That place is brutal to play at, as given by the way they've performed there this season. Your stat comparison, 49ers third in points per game and third in points allowed. A really balanced team here with the 49ers. They're fourth in passers game, third in rush yards, which, of course, Brock Purdy having an incredible regular season. He really hasn't been quite as good in the playoffs to this point. You look at the first 2 playoff games for the 49ers. They did score 34 on Detroit, but it wasn't always pretty. A lot of that was due to the rushing game. McCaffrey's been incredible, and Brock Purdy's gotten it done, but he hasn't played quite at the same level as we saw him in the regular season, so that does kind of concern me a bit heading into this matchup. Is how is he going to handle the pressure? This is a guy who is in his second season as an NFL quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant. The story of that all is honestly incredible, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him in this matchup. He's still a second-year guy out of Iowa State. I mean, that's really something that's incredible to see in his second year, to be already a starting quarterback for a Super Bowl team. But it's really going to be on him to perform well. And obviously when you got McCaffrey, Ayuk, I mean, this offense in general, it's not just Brock Purdy. It's really the pieces around him that make this offense incredible. And obviously the defense is stacked. This is a really balanced team here in San Francisco that is, I mean, when Brock Purdy plays well, this team is almost unbeatable, I would say. And so it really comes down to turnovers and not turnover the ball. But for Kansas City, 15th in points per game. Once again, offensively, this team hasn't been quite as pretty this season, but they've found a way so far in the playoffs. They are second in points allowed this season. A really tough defense here that's really been consistently good down the stretch. 6th in pass yards a game, 19th in rush yards. Pacheco's a guy has really come around here, and he's been really impressive as a running back. He's the guy that's got a bright future, I would imagine. Obviously, you got Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce. This receiving core hasn't been quite as good this season. That's, I would say, one of the main concerns heading into this one. But when you got Kelce, who is as reliable as he is, especially so far in the playoffs, I mean, that's really been huge for this offense. And I mean, that duo between Mahomes and Kelce has really come around so far in these playoffs. But your key points, 49ers 14-5 overall this season. Arguably the most complete team in the NFL. I would probably say it was Baltimore. I mean, it's either Baltimore or San Francisco, but obviously the Ravens lost to Kansas City. So, but overall, the 49ers are a stacked team. This team is really brutal to beat. They're almost unstoppable if Brock Purdy plays well and they don't turn over the ball too much. And they're seeking their first Super Bowl title since 1995. They've been in a couple of Super Bowls since. We did see these two teams play each other back, which would have been at the end of the 2019 season. In 2020, we saw these two teams play each other. Kansas City won it and got Pat Mahomes' first Super Bowl there. But, I mean, you look at Kansas City, this is their fourth Super Bowl appearance in 5 seasons, 2-1 in their previous 3 appearances. Lost to Tampa, of course, a few years ago, and beat Philadelphia last year. So, but that's the thing about Kansas City that I think is so dangerous. San Francisco is the more complete team in this matchup. I feel like there's really no hiding that. But Kansas City and Pat Mahomes, the experience of this team, and also the way that Mahomes always tends to find a way in high-pressure situations. I mean, the playoffs with Pat Mahomes, this team has been incredible. That's really something you got to look for, is how do they perform in the playoffs. The 49ers haven't been exactly pretty in the playoffs. They've found ways to win. They've beat Green Bay and Detroit both by a field goal, but it looked like they honestly could have definitely lost both games when it comes down to it. They shouldn't have beaten Green Bay, I think. The Packers really outplayed them for probably 58 minutes of that game. And Detroit, it was more the first half. And the second half, the 49ers were lights out. But, I mean, it's not exactly been pretty for San Fran so far. For Kansas City, it's been nothing but really spectacular for this team so far in the postseason. So it's going to be tough to beat Kansas City. This is kind of a similar situation where, I mean, you consider last year's Super Bowl between Philadelphia and Kansas City. Everyone was picking Philly just because of how talented and how complete of a team they looked versus Kansas City. And this is a really similar situation. San Fran's the more complete team, but Kansas City's got Pat Mahomes, and they got a team that always tends to find a way. So it's going to be a close one for sure. But with that, let's get the prediction here for San Francisco and Kansas City coming up here in Super Bowl 58. In the end, I'm taking Kansas City. 24-21 was my predicted final score. Took Kansas City in last year's Super Bowl as well for this very reason. It's the fact that Pat Mahomes and the way this team plays in the postseason is incredible. And San Francisco hasn't exactly been very impressive so far in these playoffs. Maybe outside of the second half against Detroit, that second half was incredible. But otherwise, I feel more confident picking Kansas City here, and a team that's got experience. I feel like Brock Purdy's got a very bright future. I just don't know if he's ready to win his team a Super Bowl quite yet. Once again, though, it's also the players around him. Christian McCaffrey's been incredible this year. He himself is a force. He is brutal to stop. So for Kansas City, it's going to come down to that. And I feel like the Chiefs' defense will be able to be strong in this matchup. They've been incredible this season. That's once again been one of the main constants of the Chiefs this season. Something that's been so consistent is this defense. Their offense, not quite as much, but in the playoffs, this offense has really turned it on. So, maybe outside of the Baltimore game, they only scored 17, but still found a way. And that's what matters, is that Kansas City finds a way, and I trust this team more in this matchup. So I'm taking 55% towards Kansas City, taking the under as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this turned out to be more of a lower scoring matchup. I think we see still a decent amount of scoring here, but I do think it's under the 47.5 in the end. But I'm taking Kansas City to cover and the Chiefs to win in the end. I just feel like, you got it's a pretty similar situation to the Super Bowl last year between Philadelphia and Kansas City. You have a team that's more complete than the other, Philadelphia, and in this situation, it's San Francisco taking on Kansas City. Just a team that's been borderline unstoppable in the playoffs, and in the end, I'm taking the Chiefs. But with that, let me know your thoughts and comments below on this matchup, score predictions, all of that. My name's Evan. This is All Sports Central. Stay tuned for more. We'll catch you on the next one.